The night was quiet, but the boy was not at peace. Miyamoto Musashi sat alone outside a small wooden house, looking at the dark sky. The village behind him was asleep. People there lived simple lives. They woke up together, worked together, laughed together, and grew old together. They belonged to each other. Musashi felt none of that. Even as a child, he was different. While other boys played and talked, he watched. While others dreamed of friends and comfort, he dreamed of strength. There was something inside him that could not rest, something that did not want to stay. People noticed it early. He is strange, some villagers said. He does not smile like other children, others whispered. Musashi heard these words, but he did not argue. He learned very early that explaining yourself never makes people understand you. It only makes them more afraid. He grew up in a time of war. Swords were common. Death was close. Strength decided everything. In such a world, belonging felt like safety. Families stayed together. Samurai served masters. Everyone had a place. Everyone except Musashi. His father taught him how to fight. The lessons were hard. His hands bled. His body ached. But Musashi did not complain. Pain felt honest. Pain asked nothing from him. Pain did not pretend to care. When he held a sword, the noise inside his mind became quiet. That scared him. At a young age, Musashi fought his first real duel. The enemy stood before him, older and experienced. The air was heavy. The crowd waited, holding their breath. This was not a game. Someone would fall. Musashi won. When it was over, people looked at him differently. Some admired him. Some feared him. But no one treated him like a child anymore. Victory gave him respect, but it also built a wall. That was the first lesson. Winning makes people look at you, but it does not bring them closer. After that day, his name spread. People talk about the young fighter with wild eyes and calm hands. Some invited him. Some wanted to train with him. Some wanted to control him. They offered him belonging, a place to stay, a group to serve, a master to obey. At first, Musashi tried. He stayed in houses where people praised him during the day and judged him at night. He trained with warriors who smiled in front of him but measured him in their minds. He felt it, the quiet pressure to become what others wanted. Belonging had rules. Belonging asked him to slow down. Belonging asked him to obey. Belonging asked him to become smaller. The more time he spent around people, the heavier his chest felt. He noticed something important. When people gathered, truth became weak. Everyone wore a mask. Everyone wanted approval. Even warriors, strong men with sharp blades, feared being alone. Musashi did not understand that fear. One night, after hearing men talk about honor and loyalty while planning lies, Musashi stood up and walked out. No goodbyes. No explanation. The road was dark. The wind was cold. But for the first time in weeks, he could breathe. He walked alone for days. His food was simple. His sleep was short. His thoughts were loud. Without voices around him, his own mind became clear. Painful, but clear. He thought about life. Why did people cling to groups so tightly? Why did they fear silence? Why did strength disappear when no one was watching? Musashi realized something that would shape his entire life. Most people do not want truth. They want comfort. Belonging gives comfort, but it also gives chains. As he traveled, he fought more duels. Each victory made his name stronger and his path lonelier. Villages welcomed him, then feared him. Samurai respected him, then avoided him. They could not place him. He belonged to no lord. He followed no rule. He bowed to no name. People tried again and again to pull him into their world. Serve us. Teach us. Stay with us. Each time, Musashi stayed only long enough to learn one thing. Then he left. People began to call him arrogant, cold, mad, but they were wrong. Musashi was not running from people. He was running from the lie that belonging always makes you whole. At night, alone by the fire, he trained. He swung his sword slowly, focusing on breath and balance. He studied his own movements. He watched nature, how water flowed, how trees stood, how animals waited. Nature did not belong to anyone, yet it was perfect. That thought stayed with him. Belonging, he saw, often weakens a mind. It fills silence with noise. It replaces self-mastery with approval. Musashi wanted mastery, not of others, of himself. Still, loneliness was not easy. There were nights when doubt came, nights when the cold felt too deep, nights when he wondered if he had chosen the wrong path. But every time he imagined settling down, serving a master, or living by another man's rules, his spirit felt smaller. So he kept walking. People he met would remember him as a shadow, present for a moment, then gone. Some said he had no heart. Others said he had too much. Only Musashi knew the truth. He chose isolation because it gave him one rare gift: freedom. Freedom to think clearly. Freedom to train honestly. Freedom to face himself without hiding. This was only the beginning, because the more he walked alone, the sharper his mind became. And soon, isolation would stop being a choice. It would become his greatest weapon. And the world was not ready for what that would create. Fame came quietly at first. Miyamoto Musashi did not announce himself when he entered the town. He did not wear bright clothes or show his sword for attention. But news traveled faster than footsteps. By the time he stayed the night, people already knew his name. They whispered it: the wandering swordsman, the one who never loses, the man who walked alone. At first, Musashi thought fame was harmless. People offered food, a place to rest, warm words. He accepted only what he needed and refused the rest. But fame has a hidden weight. Every town expected something from him. Some wanted him to fight. Some wanted him to teach. Others wanted him to represent their pride. Slowly, the world began to pull on him from all sides. And Musashi felt the pressure. One evening, a group of young samurai approached him. Their eyes were full of hunger, not for food, for meaning. "Teach us," one of them said. "Show us how to be strong." Musashi looked at their hands. They shook slightly, not from fear of battle, but fear of being ordinary. He trained them for a short time. He showed them stance, balance, patience. But he noticed something troubling. They copied his movements, but not his mind. They wanted results, not discipline. When Musashi spoke about silence, they laughed. When he spoke about waiting, they grew restless. When he spoke about self-control, they looked bored. They wanted a shortcut. One night, he left without a word. By morning, they called him cruel. In another town, a wealthy man invited Musashi to stay. The house was large. The food was rich. The respect was loud. At first, it seemed peaceful. Then came the rules. You should represent our name. You should not fight without permission. You should think about our reputation. Musashi listened in silence. That night, he lay awake. The bed was soft, but his chest felt tight. He realized something important. Comfort can be more dangerous than hunger. Comfort makes you forget who you are. Before sunrise, he walked away. Everywhere he went, the pattern repeated. People praised him, then tried to shape him. They admired his freedom but wanted to own it. Fame was turning into a cage. The more famous he became, the less space he had to breathe. Musashi began to avoid crowds. He traveled through forests instead of roads. He stayed outside towns. He ate simply and slept under the open sky. Isolation was no longer an idea. It was becoming necessary. But isolation brings enemies too. In one village, a proud warrior challenged him. The man was loud, popular, and loved by the people. The crowd gathered quickly. They wanted a show. Musashi saw the truth. This was not about honor. This was about ego. He arrived late to the duel, calm, unbothered. While the other man burned with anger, Musashi stood like still water. The fight ended in moments. When it was over, the crowd fell silent. They did not cheer. They were afraid. That fear followed him. People no longer saw him as a man. They saw him as a force, something that could not be controlled. After that, doors closed faster. Smiles became nervous. Hospitality turned cold. Musashi understood. People love heroes only when they feel safe. That night, alone by a river, Musashi stared at his reflection. His face looked older, harder. Fame had sharpened him, but it had also pushed him further away from human warmth. For the first time, doubt returned. Was this path worth it? He remembered laughter from childhood, shared meals, voices around a fire. He wondered if he had sacrificed too much. But then he remembered the lies behind those smiles. The pressure, the slow loss of self. He clenched his fist. I would rather walk alone, he thought, than live as a shadow of myself. From that day, Musashi made a quiet decision. He would no longer chase belonging. He would no longer explain himself. He would let isolation teach him what people could not. He began to study more deeply. Not just sword work, but timing, distance, and the human mind. He watched how people move when afraid, how they attack when angry, how they fail when proud. Solitude gave him eyes. He trained alone at dawn and dusk. He fought imaginary enemies. He corrected his own mistakes without mercy. There was no praise, no comfort, only truth. Slowly, his style changed. He became unpredictable, calm, patient, deadly, and with each step forward, the distance between him and the world grew wider. Yet something else grew as well. Clarity. Musashi realized that isolation was not emptiness. It was space. Space to think. Space to sharpen. Space to become something rare. But he did not know yet that this space would soon test him harder than any duel. Because the deeper he went into isolation, the more he would be forced to face not enemies, but himself. And that battle had only just begun. Silence was once Musashi's friend. In the early days of walking alone, silence felt clean. It cleared his thoughts. It helped him focus. But as seasons changed and years passed, silence grew heavier. Miyamoto Musashi now traveled longer distances without speaking to anyone. Days passed where the only sound he heard was his own breath and the wind through the trees. At first, this made him stronger. But strength always asks a price. One winter evening, Musashi reached a small mountain village. Snow covered the roofs. Smoke rose from chimneys. The warmth called to him. Against his habit, he stayed. The villagers welcomed him carefully. They knew his name, but they did not treat him like a legend. They treated him like a man. This felt strange and comforting. Among them was a quiet warrior named Gyro. He was not famous. His skills were average, but his heart was honest. He did not try to impress Musashi. He did not ask for secrets. They trained together in silence. For the first time in many years, Musashi felt something close to friendship. They shared meals. They spoke little. When they did speak, it was about simple things, whether travel, effort, no pride, no hunger for fame. Musashi began to relax. This worried him. Comfort always came before loss. One night, Gyro spoke honestly. "You walk alone because you fear being tied," he said. Musashi did not deny it. Days later, trouble came to the village. A local lord demanded loyalty. He wanted warriors to serve him. Refusal meant punishment. Gyro was torn. If he served, he would protect his people. If he refused, he would keep his honor. Musashi watched quietly. This was the moment he always feared. Belonging forces choices that break people. Gyro asked Musashi for advice. His eyes were full of conflict. Musashi felt the weight of the question. If he spoke, his words could change a life. If he stayed silent, a friend would suffer alone. For the first time in years, Musashi hesitated. He told Gyro the truth. Every path is pain. Choose the one you can carry. Gyro chose to serve the Lord. The village was safe, but Gyro was no longer free. Weeks passed. Gyro changed. His eyes lost their calm. His words became careful. He bowed often. He smiled less. Musashi saw it clearly. Belonging had claimed another soul. One night, Gyro stood before Musashi, armor ready, duty heavy on his shoulders. "You should stay," Gyro said. "Serve with us. You would be honored." Musashi felt the old chain reach for him. He remembered every house, every rule, every silent demand. He shook his head. "I cannot," he said. Gyro nodded. He understood, and that understanding hurt more than anger. Before dawn, Musashi left. The road felt colder than before. This time, isolation did not feel like freedom. It felt like loss. Days later, Musashi heard rumors. Gyro had been ordered to fight a rival group. The battle was unfair. Many would die. Musashi stopped walking. For the first time, isolation cracked. Should he return? Should he interfere? Was walking away the same as betrayal? He sat alone by a river, fighting a battle inside himself. If he helped, he would be pulled back into the world of loyalty and blood. If he did nothing, he would carry regret. In the end, Musashi stayed away. The news came later. Jiro died. Musashi did not speak when he heard it. He did not curse fate. He simply closed his eyes. That night, he did not train. Silence surrounded him, but it was no longer calm. It accused him. He questioned his path. Had isolation made him wise or cold? Had freedom cost him his humanity? For days, he wandered without direction. His sword felt heavier, his steps slower. He realized something painful. Isolation protects the mind, but it wounds the heart. Musashi understood now why most people feared being alone. Alone, there is no escape from guilt, no one to blame, no voice to hide behind, only truth. Slowly, he accepted the pain. He did not run from it. He let it sit inside him. Pain, he knew, was a teacher. He changed the way he trained. He did not train only to win. He trained to understand. He studied timing, patience, and mercy. He learned when not to strike. Isolation was shaping him in a deeper way, not just as a warrior, but as a human being. From that point on, Musashi became quieter, more serious, less willing to connect, but more aware of life's weight. He did not hate people. He feared losing himself again. This loss hardened his resolve. If he was to walk alone, it would not be in emptiness. It would be with purpose. And from that pain, something new began to grow. A deeper discipline, a sharper mind, a calmer heart. But the greatest test was still ahead. Because soon, Musashi would discover that isolation does not only remove people, it forces you to face your own darkness. And that battle would be the most dangerous of all. Alone, Miyamoto Musashi walked through forests and mountains. The wind whispered through the trees, and the cold sun touched his face. No one watched him. No one followed. Only nature existed, and it listened. This silence, once heavy with loneliness, became a place of learning. Musashi realized something that would change everything. The sword alone could not make a master. Strength in the body was nothing without strength in the mind. He stopped fighting just to win. He began thinking deeply about every move. How fast was a strike? How sharp was his observation? How could he sense an enemy's intention before it happened? For hours, he would practice with nothing but the wind and shadows. He would swing his sword slowly, imagining 100 enemies at once. Then he would stop, lower it, and watch his own breathing. He studied himself as much as he studied combat. It was not easy. Thoughts came like storms. Doubts, regret, pain, memories of friends lost, the faces of those he could not save. Each shadow reminded him that walking alone was not safe, it was lonely, and it could destroy the heart. But Musashi did not turn away. He faced every fear, every failure, and every regret. He let them sit in his mind until they became maps of understanding. Each mistake became a lesson. Each pain became a tool. He began to see patterns where others saw chaos. The river's flow taught him timing. The tree's flexibility taught him patience. The bird's flight taught him strategy. In this way, the world itself became a teacher. Musashi began to understand the truth of combat. The mind is stronger than the sword. A strong heart and a calm mind could defeat an enemy who was faster, stronger, or more experienced. He learned to control his emotions. Anger no longer guided him. Fear no longer froze him. Pride no longer blinded him. He could strike, wait, or walk away, all with perfect clarity. This mental discipline became his real weapon. Years passed, and Musashi's name grew. People whispered of a lone swordsman who could see an opponent's thoughts before they moved. Stories claimed he fought without fear, without hesitation, and without bloodlust. But only he knew the secret. It was not the sword. It was the mind. Even when challenged by multiple enemies, even when surrounded, Musashi remained calm. He could fight, but he could also step aside. He could strike decisively, or he could watch the world unfold without acting. This was freedom, and it came from being alone. Yet mastery of the mind came with its own trials. Being alone forced him to confront choices he would rather avoid. How much power should he use? How many people could he defeat before it became cruelty? How could he protect himself without harming others unnecessarily? Every battle became more than physical. Every duel tested his ethics and his control. And every time he fought, he reminded himself why he had chosen isolation, to remain free, to think clearly, and to stay true to his own path. In quiet moments, he meditated. He would sit by rivers, watching the water ripple. He would count his breaths, measure the rhythm of life around him, and understand the connection between nature and human action. He realized that the world had its own patterns, people, battles, and life itself moved in cycles. To master them, he had to master himself first. Some nights, when the moon was full, Musashi would sharpen his sword and smile faintly. He was not proud. He was not happy. But he felt something few people ever did, understanding. His solitude had become a teacher, and his mind had become sharper than steel. But even this perfection had limits, because one day Musashi would face an opponent who could not be defeated by sword alone, a man who could challenge not his body, but his mind, a man who would force him to confront everything he had learned, and everything he had avoided in the shadows of loneliness. Musashi did not know when it would happen, but he understood that this final test was inevitable, and he welcomed it. Because he had learned the greatest lesson of all, the sword could kill, but the mind could win. And in the quiet of the mountains, the forests, and the rivers, Musashi's mind became more powerful than any weapon he had ever held. Every movement, every thought, every breath was deliberate. Every strike was calculated. Every pause was intentional. He had become a master of himself, and that mastery made him unstoppable. The world outside could still try to control him. Villages, lords, friends, enemies. They could call him names, offer rewards, or threaten him. But Musashi was no longer touched by their pull. Isolation had given him strength. Isolation had given him freedom. Isolation had made him see clearly. And one day, when the ultimate duel came, Musashi would not fight only with his sword. He would fight with his mind, his heart, and the clarity he had earned through years of walking alone. The man who had once been a restless boy, always searching for something beyond himself, had become something new, a living proof that isolation, when embraced wisely, can sharpen a person into their truest form. The mountain winds carried his name, whispers of a lone swordsman who could see beyond motion, beyond speed, beyond skill. But Musashi did not hear them. He only heard the rhythm of life, the beat of his own heart, and the whisper of the wind. And he knew the mind is the greatest weapon of all. But even the greatest weapon is only as wise as the one who wields it. Miyamoto Musashi stood alone on a hill at sunrise. The wind whispered through the trees. The world below was waking, unaware of the man who had walked its paths for decades. He looked at the horizon and thought about all the villages, all the warriors, all the friends he had met, and all he had left behind. Musashi had never belonged. Not really. He had tried, once or twice, to connect. But every time, he felt the same truth. Belonging asks you to compromise yourself. Belonging asks you to follow rules you cannot respect. Belonging asks you to shrink. He did not want to shrink. And so he chose isolation. Not because he hated people. Not because he was cruel. Not because he was proud. He chose isolation because he valued clarity, freedom, and truth more than comfort, praise, or company. Years of walking alone had taught him what few men understand. That life is not measured by how many people like you. That power is not measured by how many enemies you defeat. That freedom is not given, it is earned. He had earned it. Musashi's solitude had sharpened his body and mind. He had learned to fight without fear, to move without hesitation, and to think with unmatched clarity. Every strike, every step, every pause was deliberate. And yet, his greatest victories were not with the sword. They were inside him. The battles he won in silence, against doubt, regret, temptation, and anger, were the battles that shaped him most.